Good morning and welcome back to CKM Red Rugby League for another round recap, round review. Round 7 been and gone, and Luke joins me once more to take you through the action. How you going, mate?
Yeah, mate, not too bad. Beautiful Monday morning here in Sydney. We've got the per usual coffee. It's not too bad. How are you?
Can't complain. Nothing much to complain about. So with that then, well, other than the tips this weekend being completely off kilter. But we will get into that through the course of this recap. RIP all my accumulators and all my betting money for this one. So we will jump straight into the Rabbitohs and the Panthers Thursday night's game. Panthers going up 20-12 in that one. A lot of people had tipped for the Rabbitohs. I went Panthers, you went Rabbitohs. What did you think of the Rabbitohs?
Look, it really could have gone either way. The Rabbitohs had an absolute shocker inside their attacking 20. Latrell Mitchell, we'd been harping on him about how he'd been amazing the last couple of weeks, and he's just finding a little touch of form, and then that happened. Something like 5 errors, a sin bin. It just wasn't the Rabbitohs' night. The Panthers' defense was impeccable. Very hard to fault them. And the scoreline doesn't reflect how dominant I think the Panthers were. They themselves bombed a couple of tries, and you and I were talking about that, over messages while the game was going. And yeah, the question I think that comes out of this isn't necessarily one for the Rabbitohs, but for the Panthers, and it's how do you fit Brent Naden in? He's got to be in that 17 now, surely. You can't. Can you really drop a guy after scoring a double?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because I tell you what, the Panthers noticeably lost a lot of go forward with Mansour being out. He's consistently their top meter maker. His kick returns really build the platform for his team, and they were missing him. And Naden, he bombed the first, I think. Scored the second opportunity and bombed the first. But he looked really good out on that edge. But, where do you fit him? If you're to believe the rumours, Dean Farre is on his way to Super League and maybe there for the restart of it in August. But you've got to try and fit someone like Brent Naden in your team. Did look really good.
Yeah, the way I think that Ivan Cleary is going to do it is if/when Farre does go, Naden will fit straight in. But yeah, look, I mean the Panthers for what it's worth, again showcasing that they are one of the dark horses in this year's premiership. Parramatta and Sydney are probably the 2 favourites at the moment, with the Storm right behind them. But yeah, I tell you what, I'm slightly annoyed about. Never mind the fact that both of my multis went down. I had in the round preview either team to win by 6 or less. So to go down by 8, that's a bit tough for those who took that tip. But yeah, I mean, it's just the start of a bad week for tips for us both, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Nathan Cleary didn't have his shooting boots on. His infield kicking was still as good as normal Nathan Cleary standard. But his off the tee kicking, somebody should have took the tee off him after that second kick. It kept the Rabbitohs in it.
It looked like he had a golf ball trying to protrude out of that bandage. We had my mother and auntie were over watching the game, and both of them were like, who let him on with a baseball coming out of his forehead? It was a mean looking little infection that he had there. But yeah, like you said, everything except for his goal kicking was pretty well just par for the course. Nathan Cleary, very, very good, very solid. Probably Luai's best game as well this year.
Yeah,
for me.
Luai stepped up.
it's hard. It's hard to think that for come next week, Burton's in the 17. I think, and it's not a knock on Burton, but there's no point having him on the bench for 5 minutes a game.
Exactly. There's no point.
You'd be better off letting him play some backup football with the 11v11 games that have been running around, and getting some actual game time instead of sitting there waiting, not necessarily hoping that someone gets hurt, but waiting for an opportunity just in case.
Yeah, I mean, it's the second week where he's not being used, if barely used at all. Missed out on the Storm despite being on the bench. And now this week as well, because when a game's that close, you don't alter your spine. We said it in the preview, 65, 70 minutes in, where you usually start to rotate some of those players. Burton doesn't get a look in. And now it's a liberty that not a lot of coaches have. You look at some of the teams down the bottom end of the ladder who are going, where do we find the quality? The Panthers are going, where do we fit the quality? You got Naden sitting on the sideline waiting for his chance. He got it. For the most part, he took his chance. You got Burton, who nearly took his chance at the beginning of the year and looked like he would have done. For me, I preferred him in the side over Luai. But I think Luai, in combination with Cleary, looked substantially better than he did in combination with Burton. But then again, you stick a player alongside the caliber of Nathan Cleary, they're going to probably do pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, we've got stats up for last week. Burton, a full minute. He got a full minute when Cleary came off when the game was done and dusted. And I mean, we saw it against Parramatta, didn't we? Burton came on with 15 minutes left. Parramatta scored 3 unanswered tries. Burton on for a minute. South Sydney score in the 80th. So, I mean, granted, that's just more a coincidence than anything else. The Souths were just pushing, but yeah, Ivan Cleary's got a tough one. When it's keeping someone out like Jack Hetherington, who's now at the Warriors, who himself is a very good player. At some point, you've got to look at it and be like, look, we can go by the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, as long as we want. But there's still a need to have 4 players who are at least going to play 15, 20 minutes every week, and Burton's not getting that opportunity at the moment.
Yeah. With that, then, speaking of the Warriors, we'll take a look at the Warriors thrashing against the Melbourne Storm. For the most part, the Warriors dominated the first 20, and then it just seemed to be all downhill from there. I don't know. I can't put my finger on one moment in particular, but all of a sudden, the Storm just started clicking again.
It was 6-0 in favour of Melbourne after 20 minutes. And as you mentioned, arguably, the Warriors were on top. They came out with a vengeance with everything that happened. Cleary gone. I guess news conjuring up that 3 of their players were wanting to go home and have been allowed to go home. And I mean, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think it was that initial burst, all right, we need to show to the club that they got it wrong by sacking Kearney, sorry. And we can talk all day about whether that was the right call, the wrong call, the writing on the wall. We could go on that for an hour and a half if we really wanted to. But the storm, pun intended in this case, weathered the storm. That was the Warriors' first 20 minutes, and well, I guess you could put it down to once Vunivalu scored his first. It was 3 tries in 7 minutes. Vunivalu, Pappenhausen, and Momirovski. And then, from there, it was basically a procession. And no matter what the Warriors, could do, even with the try to Herbert, they just couldn't get themselves back in it. They just had no structure. There was no go forward, and it's hard to harp on them because of the sacrifice they made. But you can't help but feeling that if they're stuck here for too much longer, it's going to come down to them, the Dogs, and the Broncos for that wooden spoon race.
Yeah, I mean the Warriors didn't. For the first 20 minutes, if you take away that first try, the Warriors are on top. They were unlucky not to score. They'd had 3 repeat sets on Melbourne's line in sort of the first 15 minutes. And they looked real good. They were turning the screw. I think Herbert almost went over in the corner. But then Momirovski scores, and he had a fantastic game. He had a really good game. But then the Warriors, and you see it time and time again, the Warriors are a confident side. And as soon as they feel like they're out of a game, it becomes an absolute horror show. And Melbourne took advantage of that because Melbourne looked really, really good. But you saw it again, not a lot happens without Munster. And as soon as they lost Munster, and I mean, any team is going to struggle as soon as they lose their 6, they didn't look the same threat. I think if the Warriors' heads didn't go down, it becomes a little less compelling scoreline. But as soon as, and I think that's why they'll struggle next week, even with the losses at the Roosters, which we'll cover later on. But without Munster, they just didn't look as good, even with Smith coming into the halves.
And the scary part is they still put 50 on the Warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's the interesting thing for next week is they can do one of 2 things. They can put Cam Smith in at the 6 of the 7, and Brandon Smith plays rake, or they do what they have been, let Smith burrow his way around for 40, 45 minutes, just wear himself out, leave Smith at the 9, and bring in the supposed future of the Melbourne Storm in Cooper Johns. Now, that would be a trial by fire. It would be a massive trial by fire. But he would have, who would he have? Kafusi on his inside looking after him in defense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think it would be Kafusi. And the Storm aren't exactly known for sloppy defense at the best of times. At the worst of times, sorry. So I mean, I think it's a perfect time to bring in the next Johns generation. Put him up against the Roosters. Give him a test. Because we saw with Riley Jacks for as good of a player as he is, he's okay. Yeah, and for NRL quality, he's okay. He does a job, but he's not going to be breaking the door down for Dally M votes or anything like that anytime soon. So, what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah, I honestly think that, and I agree with you. I think that they need to try something new because the Jacks just didn't cut it for me in those opening rounds. So I'd agree that they would need to do something new there, but I think they are probably going to opt to go with Jackson Hughes, and I don't see that combination working really well. I mean, Hughes had an okay game, but he's not the creative spark. You saw any time that Cameron Munster touched the ball, it became an immediate problem. So, yeah, but we'll leave that one there then. And we will move on to the next game, which was Roosters Dragons. And that was a horror show for the Roosters. And supposedly the Bankwest turf is to blame for that one. They lost 3 to injury. Isaac Liu got a broken rib, which takes 5 to 6 weeks to heal, and it's not a pleasant one either. And then Bradley and Verrills as well, the dreaded ACL. Nobody ever wants to be on the receiving end of one of those.
And yeah, the ACLs to the it's that's their, you say backup hooker, but let's be real. How many games is Jake Friend going to be in? And to one of the most mobile locks in the game right now in Vic Radley. And then their backup lock in Isaac Liu is out for a month. Tough times to be a Roosters fan. The game was probably a little more competitive than a lot of people thought. Right off the back, the two bets that I said to put on got up. Roosters 13.5. Roosters at 13 plus. Dragons the line 17.5. So if someone got on that, send tips our way because we broke unemployed student right now. I need it. But yeah, for 65 minutes, the Dragons were in with a shot of causing the upset of the season. And really, it wasn't until Luke Keary got over in the 65th that a lot of people were like, all right, that's probably the game. Lomax had a great game. Dufty, another superb game out the back. Look, the Dragons. A couple of folks are starting to say that the Dragons could be there come the finals. And 3 weeks ago, I would have laughed in their face. But now, after seeing that performance against the Roosters, I could see it.
Yes and no. I mean, you look at the performance that they did put on, and it was a good performance, undoubtedly. Dufty playing at the line. When you've got a player that moves as well as Matt Dufty, anytime he comes at the line, he's going to make defenders bite. It's a guarantee. And a tired Roosters pack bought into that. Saab, I'll cover him in a minute. Had an okay game. I think if you don't beat a side that's gone down to 15 men in sort of 20 minutes, that's a problem. I think if it's any other team, if it's any team but maybe the Roosters, the Panthers, and even the Eels, I think that the Dragons probably win with a performance like that against one of the lesser teams. But yeah, I think you've still got to take points away from there. But Brett Morris, he had a fantastic game. The guy just doesn't seem to age. When he got up for that kick, got up over the top of Saab and I can't remember who the centre is on that side. I think it's Aiken on that side, or is it Lomax?
Left side, Aiken, I think.
Yeah, well, either way, he gets up above both of them, claims it over his head, puts it down. The guy's a freak. He doesn't age. He just seems to keep getting better and better, but people are alluding to that this might be his last season. Joey Manu, 310 running meters, filling in at fullback for the best player in the world. The Roosters, they looked as good without Tedesco. Especially when you've got someone like Joey Manu, who just does ridiculous things like those one-handed carries, the offload, the flick pass after taking his own bomb. Fantastic.
And we mentioned this, 2 weeks ago? When Brett Morris was fullback for the week, they look superb. When Brett Morris when Tedesco had to go off last week against Parramatta, those, for that 20 minutes, the Roosters probably looked the most threatening with him off the field. And it's not a knock by saying that they're reliant on Tedesco, but it's more their depth that they can move Brett Morris or Joey Manu to fullback, and it's business as usual. And Ryan Hall, I'm sure, kind of despises being that rotation guy, who keeps coming in and out. But he himself went for what 150, 160 meters, I think. Don't know if I can. It's not going to let me scroll across and have a look on NRL.com, but yeah, something like 150, 160 meters. He's no mug. Yeah, one of the Super League's best, one of England's best ever. Hey, what do you need to do to beat this team?
Yeah, just give Ryan Hall a try, please. All of England is watching. We just want Ryan Hall to get a try. That's all we want.
Look, he had his chance. He had his chance.
Yeah. But, I think the Dragons are getting better. I think that they're over the roughest part of their fixture list now. And, I can see them picking up some more points if they continue to play like that. They've got to figure out their sides. Saab didn't do enough for me. Everybody had said, he bulked up to 110 kilos through the off season, and the Dragons should be focused on trying to re-sign him. He didn't look interested, and I don't know whether that's because he's over the club at this point or he didn't cut it for me.
Look, it's hard to judge it based off one performance against the competition favourites, to be fair. But if that's the best of Saab, you can almost understand why Pereira and Ravalawa have been picked over him every single week. And it's not saying that he's not a good player, because he is, and he's shown glimpses of beautiful footwork and some great highlights. But the Dragons are in a tough spot where they're just starting to get on a roll, even with the loss. But there's still that grey cloud that lingers over when it comes to Saab and Tristan Taylor and what they're going to do with Ben Hunt and what it means for Cam McInnes in the long-term future. Dufty, Mary McGregor, there's 5 or 6 right there that you can name off that. There's that little grey cloud that hangs over the club. So it's going to be interesting to see as we start to get into the guts of the season what they do around that back five. But it hurts to say as a Parramatta fan, because this year's our best chance. But I think the Roosters have it this year. I can't see anyone beating the Roosters come September.
Yeah, they had a slow start, but they're coming back with a fury now. So, but speaking of teams that are coming back, everybody's probably multi-killer for the week. The Cowboys versus the Knights. I'm sick to death of the Cowboys at this point. Just either be a good team or be a really good team or be a really bad team. Just pick one, please, because you make it impossible for me to be able to decide which side of my multi I want to put you on. Do I want you on a plus or do I want you on a minus? That's my problem right now. And again, a lot of it, I don't want to sound like I'm harping on the Cowboys here, but I'm starting to see in the Cowboys glimpses of what used to be the Warriors, and that's that if Sean Johnson played well, the Warriors played well. And as you see this week, Jason Tamalolo tops 300 meters, 310 off the top of my head, and the Cowboys get up and they have a fantastic game.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. NRL.com, Tamalolo, 297 meters, Reece Robson, 50 tackles. Yeah, I mean, some of the tries were way too easy. Tabuai-Fido's in the 19, just Robson sliced straight through the Newcastle defence. Clifford beat 4 Knights to go to the line, and Clifford is 80 kilos soaking wet. And it says a lot about his heart and desire to get to the line from where he was, but he got through Clemmer and Fitzgibbon with relative ease. Yeah, and then burrowed past Ponga to get over. what was it, 26-0 at halftime?
I think so.
So let me get this right for easy math. In the second half of the Tigers game and the first half of the Knights game, they've scored 46 points.
Yep.
But in the other two halves, they've scored 6.
Yep.
It hurts my head thinking about it. It really hurts my head. Clifford probably had his best game though. Let's not focus too much on how bad our tips are because of it. Clifford had his best game of the year. Complimented Drinkwater very well, and Drinkwater didn't exactly play superbly. That being said, the Knights came out and looked like they were still flying up from Newcastle. Showed up for the second half, but by then it was too little too late. The Cowboys' game plan was just to keep Ponga out of as much as possible. Kick to the, have a good set, get 40, 50, 55 meter sets, grubber it out, make them work it out from 15, 20 meters out, force Ponga to create something. And at times, Ponga really looked threatening, granted, this hurts a lot of super coaches as well. Some of his best work is from kick returns. Yeah. You're guaranteed 10, 15, 20 meters, maybe a broken tackle or two every now and then. He'll bust straight through. If teams can replicate what the Cowboys have done, they very well may have found the kryptonite for Newcastle. And that's a worry, I think, if you're Adam O'Brien.
Yeah, I tell you what I don't like to see, and you see it a lot over here in Super League. Some of those tactics are starting to creep in. They're starting to creep into the NRL. They're pretty predominant over here, and that's things like players trapping the ball in the scrum, trying to get a penalty for breaking out. It's cheap, easy meters. You saw that the Cowboys got away with, and the Storm as well pulled it off a couple of times, and the kicking over the sideline. Rather than trying to contest and force 7 tackles, force a restart, risk the 7 tackles, or even trying to come up with the points, just drill it over the sideline, take the fullback out the game, just reset, recompose, and it works really well, but it just takes all the pace out of the game. And it's a good way to get a tactical win. It just makes for a really boring rugby league.
If you're the Cowboys, sorry to cut you off, but if you're the Cowboys, you don't care how it looks. You couldn't give a rat's backside. If you get the 2 points, you get the 2 points.
Yeah, 100%. Like I'm an avid Rhinos fan over here. If we played boring rugby league to beat a competitor, then so be it. We're up on the table, and the Cowboys need that at the minute because they have been so inconsistent, and as you mentioned there with the split in halves, you don't know which Cowboy side's going to turn out for which half. But I tell you, Felt is a special kind of player. We talk about your Morris and their timelessness. Felt is going to be at that club until he's 31, 32 under his new extension.
Yep.
Keep him around. Like he was 5 for 5 off the boot, and a lot of those tries came from out wide. That Ponga was 2 for 4 off the tee. So while it was actually 5 tries to 4 in favour of the Cowboys, but it looked a substantially larger margin because of the kicking difference, and that's what Felt brings, as well as being a fantastic ball runner. He's your classic big winger that makes those meters and just sets a platform.
Yeah. He's not. I mean, he's freakish when it comes to close to the try line, but he's not a flashy kind of player. He doesn't have the spark of someone like a Brian Toto or maybe like a Ravalawa or a Sivo. But he's a guaranteed 8, 9, 10 meters hit up kind of guy. He's a good finisher. Why wouldn't you keep him around?
Yeah. Right. Well, we will move on then to yet another shock upset. I don't even know whether I call this one a shock upset anymore. Gold Coast 30, Brisbane 12. You watch the first 30 minutes of that game, you just, where are the Broncos? You got, I get Tessie News basically making his debut at fullback there. That's his audition tape. As good as he's understandably nervous. He's going to bobble one or two off a kick, but the Broncos need to figure out how their spine actually functions, because I mean they just didn't look in it at all. It was a really poor performance. I mean, I can't look at a single player in that Gold Coast team, with the exception of maybe Anthony Dawn, but that's because he bagged a couple of tries. So I go, there's your standout performer. It was just the Titans doing their jobs, making sure they did it right, and the Broncos just not really being in it at all.
I hate you because you convinced me to go Broncos. Maybe second guess myself. I despise you for that. You've got to sack Seabold. You have to sack Seabold. Here's what I took out of the game. Never mind how poorly some of the Broncos played. Never mind how, probably for the first time in a long time, the Titans and Titans fans might have a future to look at. How can you, as a coach, drop Isako to the bench, play New in his third game, who honestly was one of the Broncos' better players, and then yank him off as your 8th sub after 64 minutes? That in itself tells me that Seabold has to go. It can't be next week. It can't be next year. It has to be now. Yeah. He has lost that club. He has lost the players. The Broncos are the favourites for the wooden spoon, which is a scary prospect to think, because I don't think they've ever won the spoon. And when I won't go as far as calling New the best player, but when one of your better players on the day is taken off after 64 minutes for your last sub, knowing full well that you have players on that field who are probably underdone in Lodge, in T.O., who could get hurt, but then you yank your young fullback off, and you can see how shattered New is when he is taken off. To then lose Lodge, I just...
And then Corey Oates on descent as well. Finished the game with 11 men.
If Seabold has a job by next week, Oates doesn't play.
That's a big call.
I wouldn't give two craps. You need to earn the respect back from your club. You need to earn the respect back from your players and your supporters. If Oates plays, because you can argue as much as you want that Oates could have been right, wasn't right. He got sent for dissent with his team already down a player. As a result, and the Broncos arguably were on top in that second half. They were on a roll in that set when Oates gave it to the ref, who rightfully sent him for dissent. And because of that, Sammy scores and it's game over. I would walk up to Coates this morning at Red Hill and say, you know what? That hurt us. You're done this week. You're named in the 21, but you're not playing unless there's an injury at training.
Well, this is the problem that they now face because they've lost Offa Hingawe now for 3 weeks. Lodge has to undergo a knee scan. They don't think it's meniscus, but they're worried and they think that he's doubtful for next week. I mean, the Broncos are all at sea here. You've got Farnworth. Farnworth's not a centre. You play Farnworth on the wing, and if you're going to play Oates, you play Oates inside him in the centre. Is the only way that works because Oates is. You might as well at this point just move him into the back row. You put Isako on the wing. And if you want to play Farnworth, you play him at centre there. But the whole, essentially, you brought a fullback and a half that can play at 9 and 2 forwards. You're counting on none of those players picking knocks through the game. That is a god-awful tactical decision. Like, you bring Dearden on, and then what happens if one of your players picks up a knock, like Lodge did? Who's your replacement? I tell you what, as daft as it sounds, and Broncos fans are going to hammer me, and I really don't care how much are you guys missing Ben Hunt right now. You'd give that man $2 million to come back right now because you need a player to move your players around the park. You've not got the experience in your halves, or even not even just the experience. You've not got the ability within the halves to actually control that big forward pack. Because Milford doesn't look like he cares anymore. He begrudgingly signed a 1-year deal because he said, "I'm not done at this club yet." He's past done. Milford is probably, for all the criticism that Johnson has copped and all this, Milford is probably the biggest money drag on a club right now. He's not done anything memorable since pre-restart. He needs to be dragged from the half. Give Dearden a shot. Give New a shot if you have to. But for the love of God, send a clear message to every player that's on a big contract throughout the NRL, and that's that if you don't perform, you don't play. I don't care how much money you're on. You're getting paid that money regardless whether you play or not.
I will go so far as to say that I won't say they miss Hunt. I will say they miss Andrew McCulloch.
Yep.
I will say drop Milford and drop Croft.
Yeah.
If you're going to have Isako in the 17, have him at fullback where he has had more good games than bad games. Play New at 6, Dearden at 7. If Isako still continues to crap the bed, by the time Sean O'Sullivan comes back, drop Isako, O'Sullivan at 6, New at 1. Forget about this year. Build your roster. You want the baby Broncos? Give 2 halves and a fullback who combined might have 10 games worth of NRL experience together. Put them in. Give them some time to gel. Work with them on the off season and tell them that is our spine.
Yeah.
Because I think in 2 years, if you put New at 1, O'Sullivan, Dearden, and Corey Pay at the 9, that is the next Broncos spine. I have no doubt about it. You put them behind the forward pack of Haas, Offa Hengawi, Fafita, if he stays. Buzz is saying that he's gone to the Titans this week, but if he stays, Fafita as well. That is a really freaking good young pack.
Yeah.
They just need the coach who's actually going to put the time and effort in because it's not Seibold. Seibold's got to go.
Yeah, I'd agree. Let's get off the Broncos. Let's talk about the Titans. The Titans looked good. They came with a plan. They executed. Fotuaika had another really good game, minus the sin binning. They've got to make sure that they tie him down. He is one of the players that you build your forward pack around. If they get Fafita and they pair him up with a player like Fotuaika, that's going to run riot against a lot of clubs, especially with Tino Fa'asamalawi coming from Melbourne next year, that's going to be a big pack. That's going to be a big dominant pack. You get a decent ball player like Ash Taylor ticking over. The Titans are a good side in the next year or two.
Taylor had his best game. Yep. I have no doubt in saying that. Sammy has become a very good, very versatile player. Can play wing and dominate the wing. He dominated Coates, but can play fullback and plays fullback scarily well. Jamal Fogarty, I think, is bringing out the best of Ash Taylor. We've seen Fogarty come into this side and has just given Taylor free rein while he takes the role of the running half. And it's worked well. Corey Thompson probably only has a couple of years left, but it gives time for AJ Brimson to get his back right, get his injuries set, because he's only 21, 22. He still has 10, 12 years left in the league if he really wants to. The Titans, I can't remember if I said it earlier in the season. I feel like I did. I feel like I said that the Titans next year have a shot of making finals.
Yep, I recall it.
I maintain that statement. Granted, they played against a god-awful Broncos side, but they have the young roster coming around. Yeah, we talk about the baby Broncos, the baby Titans they just have money tied up in the wrong places. They've got money tied up in Cartwright, who's not worth half the contract. Same said probably for Tyrone Peachy. And once they get that money freed up, they can go and sign. They sign Tino. They'll have the money to throw it for feeder. Ash Taylor, I think when his contract comes up, will take a pay cut to stay at the Titans. And there in itself is probably $1.5 million, $2 million that gets freed up.
Shannon Boyd, he's on about retiring to become a farmer. There'll be a bit of money in him as well.
Yeah, there's probably $650 right there.
Yeah, they've got a decent war chest. Just go after the right players.
If they can find the right players, they make their first finals next year since 2014. Here's the scary thing before we move on. I got bored last night and I went looking. When do you think was the last time that a Brisbane side or a team from Queensland was not in the NRL finals?
Gosh, you'll be going way back at this point. You'll be going back to as early as probably maybe even the 7th. Oh, God, you'll be going back to almost the early days of the NRL there.
So Brisbane came in 1991. They missed the finals in 1993. Mm-hmm. And every year since then, there has been a Queensland team in the finals. That's going so far. That's before the Rams were a side. That's before Perth were a side in the Super League. North Sydney was still a thing. The last time they missed the finals, Wally Lewis was captain of the Gold Coast Chargers.
It's a scary thought. It's a really scary thought. And the other thing you got to think about is, for the longest time, one of the commentators mentioned it as well. It might have been Steve Blocker-Roach. For the longest time, the Brisbane Broncos have been able to hold over the Titans. Players coming through saying, if you want to win anything, you come to Brisbane. Right now, Brisbane don't have that pull. So right now, they've got a hell of a lot of talent coming through in that backyard of theirs. And the Titans, I reckon, have first dibs on them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So with that, then, we move on to the Eels and the Raiders. Big game. A lot of talking points in that one. Corey Horsburgh having a huge blow-up after a spat with Ryan Matterson. But he's also going to miss 12 weeks with a Fran something in his foot. Fran
fracture.
That's the one. I knew it was Fran something. Liz Frank, that's it. And he's going to miss 12 weeks, which probably just about covers the disciplinary that he would have got for flipping the bird to the crowd. The guy plays with a lot of passion, but channeled it in the wrong way. The Eels had a complete capitulation towards the back end of that game. It looked like it was theirs to take, and then last 10 minutes absolutely fell apart, understandably, without Mitchell Moses to steer him around. Sakarangi came in. I still don't see how the Eels almost bombed that one.
You saw the bet that I had on, nearly turning 5 into 400. Never mind that. I was cracking bricks, figuring out if we were going to make full time without having to go into extra. We dominated 30 minutes of that second half without our premier halfback. And I just, man, it was, don't get me wrong, I'm proud of how Parramatta got up. No Mitch Moses after, the 13th minute. No Nathan Brown. Gutherson was superb for coming out of the back. Dylan Brown stepped up. Madison slotted in nicely into the 6. Takarangi started when Moses did leave the field. Takarangi came on, played well, then had a barnstorming 15 minutes of prop. But once again, the issue that I see for Parramatta isn't necessarily the loss of Moses, but it's the ability to finish out a game. The first chance try, the kick from Williams, there's really not much you can do about that. That's a pet play of the Raiders. They've been practicing that at training, and it went off perfectly. Yeah. That second try was soft. Madison didn't slide across as much as he needed to. Wonga Blake slid across too much. You saw, Whitehead go straight through the gap.
Yeah.
And then, as a result, Chance, as any good fullback does, tries, follows up on the inside, scores. The big talking point coming out was Corey Horsburgh and his passion. And the Parramatta fans took the absolute mickey out of him. And, it was wrong. It was wrong of him to be flipping the bird at the fans. Fans shouldn't have been booing him off because, the dude just plays with his heart on his sleeve. There's nothing wrong with that. Parramatta is a club built on players busting their gut. And that's all Horsburgh was doing. But I very much question, and this is coming from a Para fan, ladies and gentlemen, I very much question the premiership credentials of Parramatta if they can't finish off a game. Because if they had that lead against the Roosters, and the Roosters did the exact same thing, we don't see extra time because the Roosters will go in again and they will take that win away from us.
Saying that, though, if Gutherson doesn't slip on the turf in the off the back of that bouncing bomb in sort of the 78th minute, it doesn't go to extra time. In fact, it might have even been earlier than that point. I can't remember when it was. It was very late in the game. Gutherson, out of nowhere, just puts up a bomb instead of a drop goal. And that ball bounces, and Gutherson goes to collect it, and he slips instead. Which is the bounce of the ball. Nothing you can do about it.
Tell you what, the fact that Sevo was penalised for the hit straight after, that was a mad hit. It would have been a knock-on against Croker. Parramatta would have had it 10 metres out, but instead it was a penalty put on report. Nothing will come of it.
No.
Now, Ashley Klein and Gavin Badger. I have a bone to pick. How I'm trying really, really hard not to put up the curse jar here. How the hell do you miss a 2-meter freaking forward pass from Jared Croker? And it went both ways. The Raiders had a try yanked away from them. I think it would have been to Rapana off a forward pass that looked fine out of the hands from Sharks. Even
the Moses one, I'd have called that flat at best. It goes up, palms it back. I'd have called that one flat at best, to be honest. But I tell you what, and this is one of the things that really, really gets on my nerves about the on-field decision. If that goes up as try, it comes back down as a try. If it goes up as no try, it comes down as. If you are turning something to a video referee as a referee, there shouldn't be an on-field call. It should be, I don't know, take a look at it, because that's all a video referee is. I don't know, take a look at it. Don't say, I think it's a try, because it's a 50-50 from there. And the 50-50 went against the Eels that time.
I'm not as mad about that, because Klein was in as good of a position as a match official can be and was like, look, I think this has gone forward, but it is close. Look at it for me. And I can see, obviously I'm a biased Parramatta supporter. I believe blue and gold in rugby league. I'll admit it. But, the camera angle makes it very hard to see, and it doesn't help that Moses gets his hand in front of the ball and tries to knock it back with the spin of the ball sliding it forward. I'm not overly upset about that because, as you said, it could have gone either way. But the Croker forward pass for Whitehead's try, as good of a try as it was, there we go. How do you miss that? How do you miss that? That is you could almost pull out a penalty for a deliberate forward pass there. But
it's madness.
I digress. We won. I don't care. We're top of the table. Thank you. Next.
So, next game, Seagulls versus Sharks. I went Seagulls in this one. Believe you had the Sharks down. But again, inconsistency. But we finally got what we asked for, and that is a Sean Johnson running game. And the difference that it's made, him taking the ball to the line instead of just handing it on, is the difference between try and no try. Come out of that game with 2 try assists, 8 runs for 60 metres, I think. No line break, but 1 line break assist. When he attacks the line and he does it with a little bit of passion, teams are more prepared to go in on him. Because you saw it before, teams were happy to stand off him and let him just wait for him to pass that ball on because he knew he was going to pass. Johnson finally starts running the ball and teams panic because he looks at his best when the Sharks did something for me that they've not done for a long time, and that is play to their strengths. They used Wade Graham as the versatile player that he is. They moved the ball wide to, the dangerous edge players in Goodwin, Katoa, Jesse Ramian. And because of that, they looked a far better team for it.
I hate to say I told you so, but I can finally say I told you so. As much as Manly just looked like crud in attack without Tom Trbojevic, as you mentioned, the Sharks probably have their best game of the year. And I think the play of the game for me that just showcases how good Johnson was is the way he set up the try for Goodwin. He, on that left edge, running to the line, then just, it's a thing of beauty. That 20-meter little floating pass to Goodwin on the run, hits him in the chest, who then gets past Parker and plants it down in the corner. Like that is just prime Sean Johnson at his best. Matt Moylan, I was calling for him to retire 2 weeks ago. He probably has his best game in a Sharks jersey. I mean, what can you say about the Sharks team? It's their best game all year. They've taken the pressure off John Morris the last 2 weeks. They have absolutely taken that pressure off John Morris. The scrutiny is firmly on Seabold and Dean Pay now for who gets sacked first. Johnson had a great running game. Townsend had his second try assist in 2 weeks. Heaven help us all. Pigs are flying. Dugan looks as strong as ever in the centres, as does Jesse Ramian. But Sione Katoa, what can we say about him? 5 tries in 2 weeks. And that second try was superb.
Oh, absolutely sailed in.
He's one of the best wingers in the game in terms of finishing tries at the moment. But you have to give credit where credit's due. It wasn't for a lack of trying from the Manly forwards. The Manly forwards got the Seagulls into some strong positions. Adam Fanua-Blake had 240 meters, 2 tries. 207 meters, 2 tries. Sorry, Jake Trbojevic, the try assist, line break assist, 39 tackles, 100 plus meters. Tafua, just solid as always. Funa, solid as always. I do question why Des put Garrick at fullback and not Brendan Elliott, because I know in the preview we said that Elliott's not a strong fullback, but he's at least played there, which is more than what we can say about Garrick at the NRL level. But look, if that's the best that Manly can offer in attack over the next 9 weeks, they're in strife. But I wouldn't be surprised if next week or the week after we see Croker go to the bench and Cade Cust come in to the starting lineup, because you saw last year when Cust came in, he was threatening. He was really threatening as a running 5'8" with a solid short kicking game, and it allowed Cherry Evans to really take control of that side.
Yeah. I mean, Fanua-Blake, he touched on him there. He carried that Manly pack. He's been carrying that Manly pack for a little while now. He did it without Tapau, and he's just continued that strong form. He's one of the premier forwards in the comp right now, in terms of not just his work ethic, but his output as well. You see a lot of players that try really hard but don't necessarily deliver. Fanua-Blake does both, and I just think that Manly are lacking creativity now. You've not got a player that complements Cherry Evans well in the halves. You've not got someone like Trbojevic at fullback who can just spark something out of nothing, break a tackle out wide, come up with an insane kick return. It's just they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle. I called this one in favour of the Seagulls, hoping that they would stand up to those doubters who said, you know what, without Trbojevic at fullback, they've got a god-awful record. It's, not too dissimilar to the Cowboys without Tamalolo. But you've got the incredible difference that one player makes at the back. Just stuck out a mile. And they really do need to find someone that plugs that gap and adds some more depth, because even Manly said it at the beginning of the season. It's not going to be a case of what do we do at the start of the season. It's when it gets towards the messy end of the season, you've got a few players out, you've lost a couple of stars. What do they do then?
They wouldn't have gone amiss if they had snuck in at the 11th hour and gone for Corey Thompson. They got enough depth on the wing with, you've got Tafua, you've got Funa, who can play wing, you've got Garrick. But Corey Thompson has that ability to, switch from wing to fullback pretty easily. And you just can't help but think that he might have been okay knowing the injury history of Tom Trbojevic and knowing that Tafua is always going to be good for, you know, one or two small injuries a year, a corky here or there, a bit of a hamstring twinge, just to play at a team that could potentially be a premiership contender in the next year or two, maybe. But, you know, hindsight is 2020, and yeah, it is the issue for Des Hasler. The issue is that he's got a really strong 17 and not much else. And he's just got to find that something else or someone else in this case.
Yeah. Okay, so we move to another team that's experiencing similar problems, a really strong 17 and not much else. And that is the Bulldogs. They couldn't get up over the Tigers this week, and at no point did they look like they were going to. I mean, if you're the West Tigers, your focus right now shouldn't be where does Benji go next season? Should he be getting dropped or not? 100% your focus is how do you find a way to drag Harry Grant away from Melbourne? You have got to find a way to keep that young lad in the 9 shirt, and you build your spine around him, because he has been nothing short of a sensation. Every time he plays well, the Tigers look a substantially better team for it.
I criticised 2-3 weeks ago the decision for Michael Maguire to drop Benji. I rescind my criticism because Harry Grant and Josh Reynolds are very quickly becoming one of the premier combinations in the attacking half in the competition. That right side, when Harry Grant darts out and you have him, Reynolds, who's the second rower on the side? It's not Luciano.
Oh god, Garner would be playing out
Garner,
on the side.
Yeah. Garner, BJ, Nofo.
Yeah.
When you dart down that right side and you've got those 4 or 5 coming at you, mate, that's a scary prospect. And we saw that with the first try with Harry Grant's for the Tigers. You dart down that right side, BJ gives it to Nofo, darts downfield, puts the kick back in, somehow stays in, no idea how.
Yeah.
Harry Grant's there, backing up, breaks 4 tackles and scores. This Tigers side, not dissimilar to that of the Cowboys. They have games where they are superb and could take it to anyone in the comp. They have games that you'll wonder if they could beat the Broncos. But Harry Grant, look, we know the rumors about the salary cap potentially taking a hit next year or the year after. Thank you very much to old mate Roney. If the salary cap doesn't take a hit, you throw 7 figures at Harry Grant. If the Storm decide, or if Cam Smith decides that, he's going to go one more year. If Cam Smith decides to go one more, you can afford to probably drop that down to about $750 over a 3-year deal. And tell Harry, look, there's a chance that when this deal comes up in 3 years' time, we could potentially, depending on the salary cap, double that. That's how good he is. But all of this is dependent on Cam Smith. And that's a scary prospect.
You got to look, even if Grant does opt to return to Melbourne, he's still behind Brandon Smith, who looks like another long-term hooker. Does he suit the Melbourne Storm's play style? Not really. The Storm are quite a rigid, structured side, whereas the Tigers they're a little bit like the Warriors 5 or 6 years ago, where they can play really well, good structured ball, but they also enjoy a little bit of off the cuff. You saw that with Norfoluma. You see it when they move it to the edges. By the way, Norfoluma has been having an incredible season. He has been probably one of the standout wingers this year as well. And we'll talk about the fella on the other side as well, Talau, in just a minute. But Grant suits the Tigers' play style down to a T. And he should be looking at where he's going to get the most minutes. And right now, he gets the most minutes at the Tigers. 100%.
And you look at everyone else who's in the market for potentially a hooker. Where else is he going to go that could be competing, at the top end of the table in a couple of years? He's not going to go to the Titans. He could. The Titans have that war chest if they want to throw it at him, but he won't. The Warriors, yeah. I mean, they on their day, yeah, but again, probably a little more structure with, Blake Green there. I think he would complement Cody and RTS really well, but I just don't see him going across the ditch. Bulldogs, maybe, but Marshall King's that solid. Marshall King's like another Andrew McCulloch. Doesn't do a lot of running out of dummy half, but is a pretty solid defender. You could say Newcastle, but they have McCulloch. They have Connor Watson. I'm kind of clutching at straws now as to anywhere else. The Tigers, if they really want him, can and will throw the book at him to get him. You put him with Luke Brooks. You put him with Reynolds, who maybe has a couple of years left. Dewey probably had his best game in a Tigers jersey. I mean, I don't think that the Tigers, will be close this year. But in a similar vein to that of the Titans, given a year or two, next year and maybe 22 is going to be their best shot at a premiership.
Yeah. I mean, talk about Harry Grant, another young bloke really breaking into the squad. Talau as well. He can keep Jennings out of that squad. Talau has to have a stinker couple games for Jennings to get back to that squad because he's been playing fantastic. He's making good yards, banging tries. He's not got the errors in his game that Jennings does. I would prefer to see him on that wing over Jennings any day.
The issue with Talau is that he has games like this where you think, all right, you know what? He's got something. And then he has games, and it's the same with Rob Jennings. And he has games where he has 2 or 3 errors, 2 or 3 bad reads. And then you're like, well, okay, is he really, as good as we think he is? Could he be better? Is there a better wing option? But, when you have someone like Norfoluma on that other edge where teams are going to put their best winger on, it takes the pressure away from Talau to perform as much as needed. And he has a pretty good defender inside of him, Moses Mbai.
Yeah.
So the defensive, lapses that Talau has had in the past are pretty easily covered up in the end. We saw the results of it on Sunday. 2 tries for him in the space of 9 minutes of game time. A pretty solid performance. So the scary part is Moses Mbai only kicked 3 of 7. That scoreline could very easily be 40 plus if Mbai has his kicking boots on. But what do you do?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's a solid win for the Tigers.
Yep. So that is you all caught up on round 7 of the NRL. We hope you've enjoyed, and you'll be joining us for the preview where we will be hopefully trying to give you some better tips than last week. Yeah, hopefully some easier games to call in that one. But no, thanks for joining us. If you enjoy the content, subscribe, leave a like. Let us know if you are enjoying it with a comment. And yeah, peace out. We'll see you for the next one. Bye.